Nexus Station floated in the darkness of space like a city made of light. It was the largest diplomatic hub in the known galaxy, a place where dozens of alien species came together to trade, talk, and build peace. The station orbited a dead star in neutral territory, and no single species controlled it. That was the point. It belonged to everyone. Humanity had joined the Galactic Compact only 15 years ago. In galactic terms, they were babies. Most species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Humans were still learning the rules, still trying to find their place among civilizations that looked down on them. They called humans Deathworlders. Earth was a dangerous planet by galactic standards. The gravity was heavy. The weather was violent. Predators roamed every continent. Diseases evolved constantly. Most species could not survive a single day on Earth without special equipment. The fact that humans had evolved there, had thrived there, made other species nervous. But on Nexus Station, humans tried to fit in. They sent diplomats and traders. They brought their families. They smiled and learned alien customs and pretended not to notice when other species whispered about them. Daniel and Laura Price were among those families. Daniel worked as a trade negotiator, helping human companies do business with alien partners. Laura was a cultural liaison, teaching humans how to interact with other species without causing offense. They had brought their 7-year-old daughter Lily with them because they believed in the mission. They wanted her to grow up seeing the galaxy as a place of wonder, not fear. On that particular day, the station was celebrating the Festival of Shared Light. It was an old tradition, older than most species could remember. Colored lights filled the common plaza. Music from a dozen worlds played through the air. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked together, and for a few hours, everyone pretended that the galaxy was truly united. Lily loved it. She had never seen so many colors. She held her mother's hand and pointed at everything, asking questions faster than Laura could answer them. What was that tall creature with the blue skin? Why did that one have so many eyes? Could she try the glowing fruit that the vendors were selling? Laura laughed and told her to slow down. Daniel bought her a small toy from an alien craftsman, a little spinning thing that made soft chiming sounds. Lily clutched it to her chest like treasure. The crowd grew thicker as more beings arrived for the main ceremony. Daniel suggested they move to a better spot. Laura agreed. They began walking through the plaza, Lily between them. Then Laura saw someone she knew. Another human diplomat waved at her from across the crowd. Laura let go of Lily's hand for just a moment to wave back. That moment was enough. Lily got distracted by a creature that looked like a walking flower. She took a few steps to get a better look. Then a few more. The crowd shifted, and suddenly her parents were not beside her anymore. She was not scared. She was a brave girl, and she knew they would find her. She just needed to stay still and wait. But the crowd kept moving, pushing her along. She tried to hold her ground, but she was small, and the aliens around her did not notice her. She bumped into something solid. Lily looked up. The creature standing before her was tall and covered in smooth, dark scales. It had 4 arms and eyes that glowed faintly yellow. It wore a uniform decorated with medals and carried a long staff made of polished metal. The creature looked down at Lily with an expression of pure disgust. This was Sub-Commander Valiva Sora of the Corvani Empire. The Corvani were one of the founding species of the Galactic Compact. They were proud, ancient, and powerful. They believed that strength was the only true measure of worth. Weak species existed to serve the strong, and humans, in their view, were barely worth noticing. Valith had been having a bad day. The festival annoyed her. The noise in the crowds and the foolish celebration of unity made her sick. And now this small, soft creature had dared to touch her. "Watch where you walk, Deathworlders spawn," Valith hissed. Lily did not understand the alien language. She just knew she had made a mistake. She opened her mouth to say sorry. She never got the chance. Valeth raised her ceremonial staff and struck Lily across the face. The blow was brutal. The metal connected with the side of Lily's head with a crack that echoed through the plaza. The little girl flew backward and hit the ground hard. Blood began pooling beneath her face. The spinning toy fell from her hands and rolled away, still chiming softly. For a moment, no one moved. The aliens nearby stared in shock. Then Lily began to scream. Daniel heard his daughter's voice through the crowd. The sound cut through all other noise like a knife. He pushed through the aliens, shoving them aside, Lavra right behind him. When they reached Lily, Daniel's heart stopped. His daughter lay on the ground, her face swollen and bloody, her small body shaking with pain. He dropped to his knees and gathered her in his arms. "Lily! Lily, look at me!" Lavra screamed for help. Medical teams began pushing through the crowd. But Daniel's eyes found the creatures still standing there, still holding the bloody staff, still looking at his daughter with contempt. "She should be kept on a leash," Valeth said coldly. Like all animals, Daniel wanted to kill her. Every instinct in his body told him to attack. But other Corvani were already surrounding their officer, forming a protective wall. And Lily needed him more than he needed revenge. Station security arrived. Lieutenant Megan Torres was first on scene. She was a human security officer, one of only a handful on Nexus Station. She took in the situation instantly. The injured child, the bloody weapon, the Corvani officer being shielded by her people. Megan wanted to act. Every fiber of her being wanted to drag that alien to the ground and make her pay. But she was a professional. She knew the rules. She pulled out her recording device and captured everything. "This officer is under diplomatic immunity," one of the Corvani guards declared. "You have no authority here." Megan said nothing. She just kept recording. Medical teams took Lily away. Her injuries were severe. The staff had fractured a jaw and caused bleeding inside her skull. She would survive, but she would carry scars. Daniel went with his daughter. Lavra stayed behind, staring at Valeth Sora with eyes full of hate. The Corvani officer did not even look at her. She simply walked away, surrounded by her guards, as if nothing had happened. An hour later, Commander Nathan Cole sat in his office watching the footage. He was the senior human representative on Nexus Station. He had spent years building relationships with other species, learning to navigate galactic politics, trying to earn humanity a place at the table. He watched a child get struck down for the crime of bumping into someone. He watched the Corvani walk away without consequence. His face showed nothing. His eyes showed everything. Nathan opened a secure channel to Earth. When the connection was established, he spoke only 4 words. "We have a problem." The news spread like fire through dry grass. First, it moved through the human community on Nexus Station. Families gathered in common rooms, watching the footage that someone had leaked onto the local network. They saw the little girl with the spinning toy. They saw the Corvani officer raise her staff. They saw the blood. Then the news reached Earth. Within hours, every major city on the planet knew what had happened. The footage played on screens in homes, offices, and public squares. People stopped what they were doing to watch. Strangers stood together in silence as a 7-year-old girl was beaten for the crime of existing in the wrong place. The anger came next. Protests formed outside government buildings. Social networks exploded with rage. Parents held their children closer and demanded to know what would be done. Military veterans called for action. Politicians promised responses. Commander Nathan Cole felt that anger too, but he could not let it control him. He had a job to do. He needed to handle this correctly, or the situation would spiral into chaos. He requested a formal meeting with the Kavani delegation. Ambassador Torvan agreed to see him. Though his tone made it clear he considered it a waste of time, they met in a neutral conference room. Torvan was a large Kavani, older than Valeth, with darker scales and a permanent expression of boredom. 2 guards stood behind him. Nathan came alone. "I assume this is about the incident in the plaza," Torvan said, before Nathan could speak. "An unfortunate misunderstanding." The child startled Sub-Commander Valeth. She reacted on instinct. "I am told the child will recover." Nathan kept his voice calm. "A 7-year-old girl is in critical care with a fractured skull. Her jaw was broken in 3 places. She may need reconstructive surgery. As I said, unfortunate." Torvan waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. "We are prepared to offer compensation. A reasonable sum to cover medical expenses. Perhaps a formal statement of regret. I am not here to discuss money." Torvan tilted his head. "Then what do you want?" "I want Sub-Commander Valeth Sora surrendered to human custody. She will face trial for assault on a minor." The silence that followed was absolute. Torvan stared at Nathan as if he had grown a second head. Then the ambassador began to laugh. "You cannot be serious." "I am completely serious. Sub-Commander Valeth is a decorated officer of the Corvani Empire. She holds diplomatic immunity under the laws of the Galactic Compact. You have no authority to demand anything." Nathan did not blink. Diplomatic immunity was designed to protect officials conducting legitimate business. It was not designed to let them beat children without consequence. The law is the law. Torvan stood up, signaling that the meeting was over. "I suggest you accept our offer of compensation. It is more than your species deserves." He paused at the door. "Remember your place, Commander. Humanity is a guest in this galaxy. Guests do not make demands." Nathan remained seated after Torvan left. He sat alone in the conference room for a long time, thinking. Then he made a call. 3 days later, the warship Ironclad dropped out of faster than light travel at the edge of the Nexus system. The Ironclad was not the largest ship humanity had built, but it was among the most dangerous. It carried weapons that could crack open moons. Its hull was thick enough to survive the heart of a star, and its crew was made up of men and women who had grown up on a death world, trained to fight and unafraid to die. Captain Ryan Hendricks commanded the Ironclad. He was a quiet man with gray hair and steady hands. He had fought in 3 wars before humanity ever reached the stars. He had lost friends, buried soldiers, and learned that some things were worth any price. Protecting children was one of those things. 2 more human warships arrived behind the Ironclad. Together, they formed a silent wall of steel and fire at the edge of the station's space. Panic spread through Nexus Station. Other species had heard stories about human warfare. They knew about the world wars, the countless conflicts, the nuclear weapons that humans had invented and almost used to destroy themselves. Humans were supposed to be primitives, barely civilized. But primitives did not build warships like that. Ambassador Torvan sent an angry message to Commander Cole. He called the arrival of the ships an act of aggression. He threatened to report humanity to the Galactic Council. Nathan replied with a single sentence: "Surrender Valeth Sora and the ships will leave." Torvan refused. Meanwhile, in the human medical bay, Lily Price was slowly recovering. Her face was wrapped in bandages. She could not speak because of the damage to her jaw. She communicated through small hand signals and by writing on a tablet. Her parents never left her side. Daniel held her hand during the day. Laura read her stories at night. They tried to keep her spirits up, but the light in Lily's eyes had dimmed. She flinched whenever an alien walked past the medical bay windows. Daniel and Laura made a decision. They recorded a message. The video showed them sitting beside Lily's bed. Lavra spoke while Daniel held their daughter's hand. She described what had happened. She showed the medical reports. She explained that the alien who did this was walking free, protected by diplomatic immunity. Then the camera turned to Lily. Her face was swollen and bruised. One eye was nearly shut. She looked at the camera and, through her damaged jaw, managed to whisper a question. Why did she hurt me? The video was released to the Galactic Network. Within hours, it had been translated into 100 alien languages and viewed by billions of beings across known space species that had never cared about humans before suddenly paid attention. Parents of all species recognized the pain in that child's eyes. Not everyone felt sympathy, but many did. The Corvani, for the first time, faced criticism from their own allies. On the station, Speaker Elmira of the Valorian Assembly sought out Commander Cole. The Valorians were a peaceful species, plant-like beings known for their wisdom and compassion. They had always treated humans fairly. "You are playing a dangerous game," Elmira said softly. Her voice sounded like wind through leaves. "I know. The Council will not support you. The Corvani have too much power, too much influence. If you push this, you will stand alone." Nathan looked at her. "Then we stand alone. You would risk war over one child?" "We would risk everything for every child." Nathan's voice was hard. "That is what your species and all the others have never understood about us. We are not just soldiers from a dangerous world. We are parents. We are families. We protect our young with everything we have. And we never, ever forget when someone hurts them." Elmira was silent for a long moment. Then she bowed her head. "I will speak for you in the Council," she said quietly. "I cannot promise it will help, but I will speak." Nathan thanked her. It was more than he expected. That night, Captain Hendricks sent a message to every ship in the system. It was addressed specifically to the Corvani vessels. "This is Captain Ryan Hendricks of the human warship Ironclad. You have 12 standard hours to surrender Sub-Commander Vela Sora to human custody. She will face trial for assault on a human child. If she is not surrendered, we will come and take her. This is not a threat. This is a promise. 12 hours. The message ended. Across the galaxy, beings of every species waited to see what would happen next. The Corvani were proud and powerful. Humans were young and untested. Surely the Deathworlders were bluffing. But on the bridge of the Ironclad, Captain Hendricks was not bluffing. He sat in his command chair, watching the countdown timer, and he thought about a little girl with a broken face, asking why someone had hurt her. He had an answer for her. He just needed 12 more hours to deliver it. The Galactic Council chamber was the largest room on Nexus Station. It was shaped like a bowl, with hundreds of seats arranged in rising circles around a central platform. Representatives from every member species had their own section. Lights of different colors marked different delegations. When fully occupied, the chamber held over 2,000 beings. Today, every seat was filled. High Arbiter Zisnel stood at the center platform. He was ancient even by galactic standards, a member of a species that lived for millennia. His body was frail, supported by a floating chair, but his mind remained sharp. He had guided the Council through countless crises. He had never seen anything quite like this. This emergency session is called to address the situation involving the Corvani Empire and the human delegation, Zethnal announced. His voice was thin but carried through every speaker in the chamber. "Ambassador Torvan, you may present your position." Torvan rose from the Corvani section. He walked to the central platform with the confidence of someone who had never lost an argument. His scales gleamed under the chamber lights. "This matter is simple," he declared. "A minor incident occurred during the Festival of Shared Light. A Kavani officer was startled by a human child and reacted to defend herself. The child suffered injuries. We have offered compensation. That should be the end of it. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates nodded in agreement. Instead, Torvan continued, his voice rising, the humans have brought warships into this system. They have threatened a founding member of this compact. They demand that a decorated Kavani officer be surrendered to their primitive justice system. This is not about a child. This is about a young species trying to force its way to power through threats and intimidation. He turned to face the human section directly. Diplomatic immunity exists for a reason. It protects all of us. If we allow one species to ignore it because they are angry, what stops others from doing the same? Today it is the humans making demands. Tomorrow it could be anyone. The entire framework of galactic civilization depends on these rules. Tovan paused for effect. The Kavani Empire will not surrender one of our own. If the Council does not stand with us, if you allow the humans to violate sacred law, then the Kavani will withdraw from the compact entirely. Let humanity see how well they survive alone. He returned to his seat. A significant portion of the chamber applauded. High Arbiter Zethanel turned to the human section. Commander Cole, you may respond. Nathan Cole stood. He was aware of how small he must look to many of these beings. Humans were not impressive by galactic standards. They were short-lived, soft-skinned, and came from only one planet. But Nathan had learned long ago that size meant nothing if you stood firm. He walked to the center platform without hurrying. I thank the Arbiter for this opportunity, Nathan began. His voice was calm, almost conversational. I want to start by correcting something Ambassador Tervan said. He called what happened a minor incident. He said Subcommander Valeth was startled and reacted in self-defense. Nathan held up a small device. A holographic image appeared above the platform, showing Lily Price before the attack. She was smiling, holding her spinning toy, looking up at something with wonder in her eyes. This is Lily Price. She is 7 years old. She weighs 19 kilograms. She has never hurt anyone in her life. The image changed. Now it showed the medical scans from after the attack. A fractured skull, a shattered jaw, internal bleeding around the brain. This is what Subcommander Valeth did to her. Not in self-defense. Not because she was startled. The child bumped into her by accident, and Valeth beat her with a metal staff. The chamber was silent. Even those who had applauded Torvan shifted uncomfortably. Ambassador Torvan is correct about one thing, Nathan continued. Diplomatic immunity exists for a reason. It protects officials who are doing their jobs. It ensures that misunderstandings between cultures do not escalate into conflicts. He paused. But it was never meant to be a shield for cruelty. It was never meant to allow anyone, from any species, to harm a child without consequence. He looked around the chamber, meeting eyes from dozens of different species. Humans have a concept that may seem strange to some of you. We call them natural rights. We believe that every sentient being has certain protections simply because they exist. The right not to be harmed without cause. The right to justice when that harm occurs. These rights do not come from laws or treaties. They exist because we are thinking, feeling beings. Torvan stood up. This is philosophy, not law. The human speaks of rights that exist nowhere in our compact agreements. Then perhaps they should, Nathan replied evenly. But that is a discussion for another day. Today, we are here because a Kavani officer deliberately harmed a human child, and your empire refuses to allow any accountability. What do you want? Torvan demanded. War? Over one child? Nathan did not hesitate. Yes, the single word landed like a bomb. Delegates gasped. Some laughed nervously. Others looked at the humans with new expressions, trying to decide if they were serious. "You are insane," Torvan said. "No, we are human." Nathan stepped closer to the Corvani ambassador. "Your species has called us Deathworlders since the day we joined the Compact. You meant it as an insult, a way to remind us that we are primitives from a dangerous planet. But you never stopped to think about what it really means." He gestured broadly to the chamber. "Most of you evolved on gentle worlds. Worlds with stable climates and few predators. You developed slowly, peacefully. You had time to build your civilizations without constant threat." His voice hardened. "Earth was not like that. Our world tried to kill us every single day. Predators hunted us. Diseases ravaged us. The weather itself could destroy entire populations. And do you know how we survived? We protected each other, especially our children." Nathan turned back to face the full council. "On Earth, there is nothing more dangerous than threatening someone's child. Mothers have lifted vehicles to save their babies. Fathers have fought off wild animals with their bare hands. We evolved to protect our young at any cost, because if we did not, we would have gone extinct." He pointed at the medical image still floating above the platform. "Your officer hurt that child. Our child. And then she said she would do it again. You want us to accept money and move on. You want us to be reasonable." He shook his head slowly. "We cannot. It is not in our nature." High Arbiter Zethanol spoke carefully. "Commander Cole, surely there is room for compromise. What if Sub-Commander Valeth were reassigned to a remote posting? What if the Corvani issued a formal apology? What if additional compensation were provided to ensure the child's care?" "No, Commander, no." Nathan's voice was firm, but not angry. "I understand you are trying to find a solution that satisfies everyone. But some things cannot be compromised. Valeth Sora will face trial under human jurisdiction. She will answer for what she did. That is the only outcome we will accept." Torvan slammed his hand on his desk. "Then you will have war, if that is what it takes." The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted at each other. Some species began evacuating their sections entirely. Others called for order. High Arbiter Zethanol tried to restore calm, but even his ancient authority could not cut through the noise. Through it all, Commander Cole stood motionless on the central platform. He had said what he came to say. Now the galaxy had to choose. Speaker Almira rose from her section. Her voice was soft, but somehow it carried through the chaos. "I would like to speak." The chamber slowly quieted. Almira was respected. Her species had no military and threatened no one. When she spoke, beings listened. "I have known the humans for 15 years, she said. "I have studied their history. I have learned their stories. And I believe Commander Cole is telling the truth. They will fight for this child. They will fight even if they cannot win." She turned to face the Corvani section. "The question is not whether the humans are bluffing. They are not. The question is whether Sub-Commander Valeth Sora is worth starting a war that will cost thousands of lives." Torvan snarled something in his own language. Then he stormed out of the chamber, his delegation following behind him. High Arbiter Zethanol called a recess. The council would reconvene in 6 hours. In that time, the Corvani would have to decide what mattered more to them, their pride or their peace. Outside the chamber, Nathan received a message from Captain Hendricks. The timer had passed. 12 hours were up. Nathan sent a reply. "Hold position." "Not yet." On the bridge of the ironclad, Captain Hendricks read the message. He nodded to himself and settled deeper into his chair. "Not yet. But soon." The message came from the Corvani homeworld in the middle of the station's night cycle. Ambassador Torvan read it 3 times. hoping the words would somehow change. They did not. The high command of the Corvani Empire, the military leaders who truly ruled their civilization, had made their decision. Velisora would be surrendered. Torvan could not believe it. The Corvani had never bent to threats before. They were proud, strong, ancient. They did not bow to anyone, certainly not to primitive Deathworlders, who had barely learned to leave their own planet. But the High Command had studied the human warships. They had analyzed the weapons, the armor, the crew readiness. They had consulted their best strategists and asked a simple question. Could they win? The answer was uncertain. The Corvani might win. They were larger, more established, better connected. But victory would come at a terrible cost. Human ships were designed for close-range combat. Human crews were trained to fight even when their vessels were crippled. Human soldiers did not surrender. They would turn every battle into a bloodbath. And for what? For one officer who had beaten a child. The High Command decided it was not worth the risk. Pride was valuable, but not more valuable than the lives. They would lose in a war with a species that had nothing left to lose. Torvan delivered the news to Commander Cole personally. He did not hide his disgust. "You have what you wanted," he said. "Sub-Commander Valith will be turned over to your custody. I hope you choke on your victory." Nathan accepted the surrender with no change in expression. "The trial will be held in the council chamber. Full transparency. Every species will see exactly what happens. You want to humiliate us. I want justice. If that humiliates you, perhaps you should consider what your officer did." Torvan left without another word. The trial began 2 days later. The council chamber had been reconfigured. The central platform now served as a courtroom. Chairs were arranged for witnesses. A place was set aside for the accused. Cameras broadcast everything to billions of viewers across the galaxy. Sub-Commander Velisora was brought in under guard. She wore her military uniform, freshly pressed, her medal still pinned to her chest. She walked with her head high, refusing to show weakness. When she took her seat, she looked at the human delegation with open contempt. High Arbiter Zethnal presided over the trial. He had no love for humans, but he believed in fairness. He would ensure that the proceedings followed proper form. The Corvani had sent legal advocates to defend Valith. They were experienced, skilled, and determined to minimize the damage. Their strategy was simple. Argue the cultural differences excused the behavior. Commander Nathan Cole served as prosecutor. He had spent his career as a diplomat, not a lawyer, but he had studied human law before leaving Earth. More importantly, he understood people. He knew how to tell a story. The trial began with the presentation of evidence. Nathan played the recording of the attack. The chamber watched in silence as a little girl bumped into an alien officer and was struck down without hesitation. They saw her body hit the ground. They heard her screams. Then Nathan presented the medical reports. The fractured skull, the broken jaw, the bleeding around her brain, the surgery that had been required to save her life, the months of recovery she still faced. The Corvani advocates objected. They argued that the recording had been taken out of context. They claimed that humans exaggerated their injuries for sympathy. Nathan responded by calling his first witness. Daniel Price walked to the witness area. His face was tired and thin. He had barely slept since the attack. When he sat down, his hands were shaking slightly. "Please state your name and relationship to the victim," Nathan said. "My name is Daniel Price. Lily is my daughter. Can you describe what happened on the day of the attack?" Daniel took a deep breath. "We were at the festival. Lily was so excited. She wanted to see everything. We were walking through the crowd when Laura saw someone she knew. She let go of Lily's hand for just a second. Just 1 second. His voice cracked. He paused to collect himself. When we found her, she was on the ground. There was blood everywhere. Her face was... I could barely recognize her face. She was screaming for us. She was screaming, "Daddy, help me. Please help me." Tears ran down his cheeks. He did not wipe them away. What was Lily like before the attack? Nathan asked quietly. She was happy. She loved everything. She wanted to meet all the different aliens. She thought they were beautiful. She wasn't afraid of anyone. And now, Daniel's jaw tightened. Now she wakes up screaming every night. She won't go near the windows because she might see an alien. She asked me why someone hurt her. She asked me if it's because there's something wrong with her. He looked directly at Valith Sora. There was nothing wrong with her. She was perfect. She was 7 years old, and she was perfect. And that monster broke her. The Kovani advocates tried to cross-examine Daniel. They suggested that human children were too fragile to be brought to diplomatic stations. They implied that the parents were negligent for letting Lily wander away. Daniel answered every question with quiet dignity, never raising his voice, never looking away. When he finished, half the chamber was in tears. The Kovani called their own witnesses. Other Kovani officers who testified that Valith was a respected professional. Cultural experts who explained that physical discipline was normal in their society. They argued that Valith had been raised to respond to challenges with strength. She was acting on instinct. Following her training, Nathan destroyed these arguments one by one. "You say physical discipline is normal in your culture," he said to one witness. "Does that discipline usually involve striking children of other species?" "Well, no. Does it usually involve fracturing skulls?" "Of course not. Then what Sub-Commander Valith did was not normal, even by your own standards." She did not discipline a child. She tried to kill one. The Kovani advocates objected again. Nathan ignored them. The most powerful moment came near the end. A video screen activated, and Lily Price appeared. She was still in the medical bay on Nexus Station. Her face was healing, but still bore visible marks. Bandages covered the worst of the damage. She looked small and fragile in her hospital bed. "Hello, Lily," Nathan said gently. "Can you hear me?" "Yes." Her voice was soft, slightly distorted by her healing jaw. "Do you remember what happened at the festival?" Lily nodded slowly. "I got lost. I bumped into the scary lady. I was going to say sorry, but she hit me before I could say anything." "You were going to apologize?" "Yes. Mommy taught me to always say sorry if I bump into someone. But she hit me. It hurt so much." The chamber was silent. Even the Kovani advocates had nothing to say. "Lily, why do you think she hit you?" The little girl's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know. Did I do something bad? Is there something wrong with me?" Nathan's voice was thick with emotion. "No, Lily, there is nothing wrong with you. You did nothing bad. What happened was not your fault." The video ended. High Arbiter Zethnal cleared his throat. "Sub-Commander Valith Sora, you have the right to speak in your own defense. Do you wish to do so?" Valith stood. She had remained silent throughout the trial, but now she seemed eager to talk. She walked to the center of the platform and faced the council. "I have listened to this parade of weakness for long enough," she said. "Yes, I struck the child. I would do it again. Humans are animals. Their spawns should be kept controlled. The fact that this entire galaxy has stopped to weep over one injured Deathworlder shows how far we have fallen." She turned to face the human section directly. "You want justice? There is no justice. There is only strength. The Kovani have strength. You do not. One day you will learn your place, and you will learn it painfully." She returned to her seat. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then High Arbiter Zethnal called for a vote. The council would decide if Valeth Sora was guilty of aggravated assault against a minor. The votes came in. One by one, species cast their judgments. Some voted to acquit, loyalty to the Corvani outweighing their conscience. But most voted guilty. Even species that had no love for humans could not ignore what they had seen. The final count was announced. By a margin of 2/3, Sub-Commander Valeth Sora was found guilty. Her diplomatic immunity was formally stripped. Sentencing would be determined by human judgment. The Corvani delegation sat in stunned silence. Valeth herself showed no emotion. She had expected this. She simply did not care. Commander Nathan Cole rose to his feet. The council has rendered its verdict. Humanity thanks you for your fairness. We will now carry out justice according to our own traditions. High Arbiter Zethanol nodded wearily. May it bring peace. Nathan looked at the ancient being and said nothing. Peace was not what he had in mind. The council chamber remained full after the verdict. No one left. Every delegate, every observer, every reporter stayed in their seats. They knew something else was coming. They could feel it in the air. Commander Nathan Cole stood at the center platform. The lights of the chamber reflected off his face. Behind him, Lieutenant Megan Torres waited near the entrance. She was in full uniform, her expression neutral, her hands clasped behind her back. The council has found Sub-Commander Valeth Sora guilty of aggravated assault against a minor, Nathan began. Under the terms of our agreement, sentencing falls to human jurisdiction. I will now announce the sentence. He paused. The chamber held its breath. Many of you expected us to take the prisoner back to Earth, to lock her in a cell for years, to let time blur the memory of what she did. Nathan shook his head slowly. That is not our way. Not for this. Murmurs rippled through the delegates. Ambassador Tovan leaned forward in his seat, his yellow eyes narrowing. Under human law, certain crimes are considered so severe that only one response is appropriate. The deliberate, unprovoked attack on a child is one of those crimes. When the perpetrator shows no remorse and declares intent to commit similar acts in the future, the sentence is clear. Nathan looked directly at Valeth Sora. Sub-Commander Valeth Sora is sentenced to death. The sentence will be carried out immediately. The chamber exploded into chaos. Torvan shot to his feet, screaming in his own language. Other Corvani delegates pounded on their desks. Several species began shouting objections. High Arbiter Zethanol called for order, but his thin voice was lost in the storm. Valeth Sora did not move. For the first time since the trial began, her expression changed. The arrogance faded. Something else took its place. It took a moment to recognize it. Fear. This is murder. Tovam bellowed. You cannot execute a prisoner in front of the Galactic Council. This is barbarism. Nathan waited for the noise to subside. When he spoke again, his voice cut through the chaos like a blade. This is not murder. This is justice. Your officer deliberately harmed a defenseless child. She fractured her skull. She broke her jaw. She caused bleeding in her brain. And when given the chance to show remorse, she said she would do it again. He gestured toward the Corvani section. Your people call us Deathworlders. You meant it as an insult. But you were right about one thing. We came from a world of death. We learned to survive there by making hard choices. By doing what needed to be done, no matter the cost. Nathan turned to face the full council. Every species in this chamber needs to understand something. Humanity will trade with you. We will work beside you. We will build friendships and alliances that last generations. But there are lines we will not allow anyone to cross. His voice hardened. Our children are one of those lines. Harm them, and we will respond. Not with protests. Not with negotiations. We will respond with everything we have. This is not a threat. This is who we are. Lieutenant Megan Torres walked forward from her position near the entrance. She moved through the chamber with steady steps, her boots echoing on the floor. As she walked, she unholstered her sidearm and held it at her side. Veil's guards tensed, but a sharp command from Torvin held them back. The Kovani High Command had ordered them not to interfere. Whatever happened next, they were a stand down. Megan reached the platform. She stood beside Nathan Cole, facing the convicted officer. "You have 1 minute to speak final words," Nathan said to Veilith. "This is more courtesy than you showed a 7-year-old girl." Veilith stood slowly. Her scales had lost their gleam. Her metal seemed heavy on her chest. She looked around the chamber, searching the faces of her own people, hoping for someone to save her. No one moved. She turned back to the humans. Her fear transformed into rage. "Curse you," she hissed. "Curse all of you. You are nothing. Animals from a poisoned world. You will destroy yourselves eventually. All Deathworlders do. And when you are gone, the galaxy will forget you ever existed." She spat at Nathan Cole's feet. "I am not sorry for what I did. I am only sorry I did not kill the creature when I had the chance." The words hung in the air. Nathan nodded to Megan. Lieutenant Torres raised her weapon. Her hand was steady. Her aim was true. The shot was a single, clean sound. It echoed through the chamber and then faded into silence. Velasora collapsed. For several seconds, no one moved. The body lay still on the platform, dark blood pooling beneath it. The delegates stared in shock. Some covered their eyes. Others could not look away. Ambassador Torvan made a sound that might have been grief or rage. He stood frozen, his 4 hands clenched into fists. The other Kovani were equally motionless, as if they could not believe what had just happened. Megan Torres holstered her weapon. She stepped back and resumed her position behind Commander Cole. Her face showed nothing. Nathan addressed the council one final time. "What happened here today was not our choice. We did not seek conflict with the Kovani or anyone else. We came to this station hoping to build relationships, to prove that humanity could be a valuable member of the galactic community." He looked at the body on the platform. "But some things cannot be overlooked. Some actions cannot be forgiven. When someone hurts our children, we do not forget. We do not forgive. We make sure it never happens again." He turned to face the Corvani delegation directly. "I hope this is the last time humanity and the Corvani meet under circumstances like these. I hope we can move forward and find common ground. But understand this. If another Corvani officer harms a human child, the response will not be a trial. It will be a fleet." Torvan said nothing. There was nothing to say. Nathan looked around the chamber one more time. "To all the species represented here today, we do not want to be your enemies. We want to trade, explore, and learn alongside you. We want to raise our children in a galaxy of wonder and possibility. But we will protect them, always, at any cost." He stepped down from the platform. Megan Torres fell into step beside him. Together, they walked out of the council chamber. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. The chamber remained silent for a long time. 3 days later, Daniel and Laura Price boarded a shuttle with their daughter. Lily had been cleared for travel. Her injuries were healing. The physical scars would fade eventually. The other scars would take longer. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. Blue sky surrounded them. White clouds passed beneath the windows. Lily pressed her face to the glass, watching the world grow larger. "Are we going home?" she asked. "Yes, sweetheart," Laura said. "We're going home. Will we ever go back to space?" Daniel exchanged a look with his wife. They had talked about this question for days. They did not have a perfect answer. Maybe someday, Laura said carefully. When you're older. When you're ready. Lily thought about this. Her small face was serious. Will the mean aliens be there? Daniel leaned down and wrapped his arm around his daughter. He thought about what Commander Cole had done. He thought about the message that had been sent to every species in the galaxy. He thought about what it meant to be human. There will always be mean people, Lily, he said softly. Humans and aliens both. But wherever we go, no matter how far, Earth looks out for its own. We protect each other. We protect our children. No one will ever hurt you like that again. Lily nodded slowly. She did not fully understand. She was only 7 years old. But something in her father's voice made her feel safe. Something in the way he held her told her that she was loved, that she mattered, that she would be defended. The shuttle touched down on the landing pad. Earth gravity settled over them, heavy and familiar. Through the windows, they could see trees and buildings, and a sky that went on forever. Home. Daniel carried Lily down the ramp. Laura walked beside them. They stepped onto solid ground and breathed air that tasted like everything they remembered. Behind them, somewhere among the stars, the galaxy was still watching. Species that had dismissed humans as primitives were reconsidering. Civilizations that had never taken Earth seriously were studying its history with new eyes. The Deathworlders had sent a message. The message was simple. Harm our children, and there will be consequences. Not debate. Not negotiation. Consequences. It was a message the galaxy would not forget. Daniel set Lily down on the grass. She wobbled slightly, still getting used to the gravity. Then she steadied herself and took a few steps. Then a few more. Then she was running toward the house they had left behind. Running towards safety and warmth and home. Her parents followed, walking hand in hand, watching their daughter run through the sunlight. The stars would be there tomorrow. For now, they were home. And that was enough.